Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts A9. Well, it's Friday the 13th, so reason to celebrate. I'm here with Mrs. Voorhees and her special boys. I don't have all of the sideshow Jasons, but I'm getting there. I've got the lovely sack head with his little sack. I don't even like looking at him. That's the Evil Billy Jason. Then of course I've got Friday the 13th Part 3 Jason, who's probably my favourite because it's his pre-battle damage mask. Except his head doesn't turn. It's nice and sculpted, but yeah, it doesn't. Yep. And then of course we've got, who's next? I guess Part 6 Jason, which it's my favourite film, but that little utility belt just doesn't work for him. And then of course we've got Part 7 Jason, which is the one with the best makeup, and the figure actually has quite a bit of detail with all the it's hard to tell, but he actually has a sculpted chest and ribs and everything on there and all that. And of course the masks all come off, which I probably should have mentioned and shown. Where's Part 6? And of course Part 3, Sackhead had his sack off because the sack just doesn't look good. The masks all look good, so I keep them on. But I don't have Part 4. Didn't know it existed for a while, and I've been meaning to buy it for the last few Friday the 13th, and I always want to buy it for the next Friday the 13th, and I never do it in time, and then it's Friday the 13th, and I'm like, I don't have Part 4 yet. I'll get it for the next Friday the 13th. So yeah, I've got 2 months to the next one. Maybe I'll actually remember this time. And of course, Jason X, the mask doesn't come off. And he's really beefy, but it actually, I think some of it's padding. Yeah, he's got like fur under there. But yeah, and another little mask. But I don't have a lot of Friday the 13th merchandise. I really should. But I kind of want to talk about the films for a minute, because I made the mistake of watching this 3-part documentary about the series, going through the 8 films, by someone I guess I'll leave nameless, but he did a really big, extensive Halloween series where he did like 9 videos going over the whole history of the series, and it was okay because he likes Halloween. He doesn't really like Friday the 13th, so most of it was negative bitching and just the mentality of some of these critics and people. They just focus on things, the most ridiculous things to hate, and just make a whole video out of it, and there's just bitter little people sitting there eating it up. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to do a really positive review of all the Friday the 13th films, because I like all of them. Yeah, I said it, I like all of them. I think there's some really good parts about Part 5, and some really good elements of Part 8, even though it has that absolutely god-awful, indefensible makeup, and the baffling Jason vomiting his miniature version of himself before he actually dissolves and turns into himself as a boy who was haunting a lake, even though he was a living adult. So yeah, trying to work that film out, if you really think about parts of it, is impossible, but the rest of it I actually really enjoyed. The whole Jason stalking people on a ship, I thought that really worked. But yeah, I sort of want to talk about the positive parts about the movies, because people are just so negative. Part 1, for example, so many people say it's boring. I think part of that is because it was based around the suspense of not knowing what was happening or not knowing who the killer was, and we all know now. So it's harder to get that level of what's happening, what's next. You sort of had that probably when you were watching it in the cinema the first time, or before the other films existed. But now we've all seen all the other films. We all know who Mrs. Voorhees is. Well, most of us do. And even if we don't, we're expecting Jason. So it's not the same. So that's number 1. And the only negative thing I would say about that film is they could have done some colour grading and made it a little bit spookier. It looks very nice and Midwestern or something. Now, whether that's because they just scanned, like they did a good scan of the original film and didn't add in any timing or anything, or whether they just never thought to do it or didn't have the budget, because I think it was a $500,000 film, I think. So maybe they didn't have the budget for grading and lighting and gels. I don't know. But I enjoy it. It's really just that scene where she's like barricading herself in the cabin. It just goes on and on and on. I'm like, who thought this was working? That's about it. The rest of the film is great. So there's like two things that aren't great, and the rest of it is great as far as I'm concerned. I watch it every year, and I like they spend a little bit more time with the kids before they start knocking them off. Now the second film, everyone loves the second film, and there's really not much negative to say about the second film, so there's not much to defend. I can't remember anyone complaining about the second film, actually. I mean, there's drama behind the scenes about who played Jason and issues with the makeup and stuff like that, but, they're little superficial things. Now, the third film, I love the third film. Like I said, part 3 actually spends some time with the characters before they start knocking them off, like with part 1, and I kind of like that, and it just has a lighter, fun feeling. It's not quite as dark. I think they were going for a more crowd-pleasing film because of the 3D element and everything, which also unfortunately makes a lot of the shots unwatchable because the way they split the film, and apparently there's been a really good 4K restoration of the film, or was that Jaws 3 where they actually did a good job of actually making the film look almost like, was it 70mm or 35mm? Either way, they split one of them, and I think they split 35mm. It was like they had like 16mm. It was like the quality level that they had with that film. It looks awful. Yeah, the film itself was fun. Jason had just sort of become Jason in a way. He finally had the mask, and I don't know, I just liked Friday the 13th Part 3. I don't think, aside from the opening title, I don't think it deserves any of the criticism it gets, really. I don't know, a lot of people just like to complain, like to hate, and they judge films on what they think they should be, not what they are supposed to be. It was a Friday the 13th film, that's what it was supposed to be. Part 4 is brilliant. I don't hear anyone criticising it or complaining about it ever because it's brilliant. I love the dynamic with the older sister and the brother who's like a geek and nerd and everything, because that's how I was, and the age difference between me and my sister, and there are a lot of scenes in the film I felt like that was growing up for me, but without Jason killing everyone. Part 5 is the hardest to defend in some ways. Just the fact that they didn't have Jason, but they'd killed him. What were they supposed to do? Well, we'll have an imposter, so we can have another Jason film, and it's just someone pretending to be Jason, and they didn't really anticipate the backlash on that one. But I think the film plays well. It's filmed well. The director had some very interesting takes on the males in the film, and there's there are parts and shots interesting when you really look at it, and I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves because of his where he came from, which was pornography, and I just, there's really very few elements of the film I don't like. I can't really even name anything except for how what's the name of the woman who's taking care of them in the home? I keep wanting to say Trish and other names from the films, but when she's like running and falling and stumbling around and screaming on the ground when Jason is walking up to her, it's just bad. It's just bad. It's just like, just roll around on the ground and scream as Jason's coming, be terrified. It's like, other times they made it convincing. They made it look like the person was really panicking and not thinking, or they're trying to get away from him. This is just like, yeah. So that's like one scene, and it's just, that was obviously the intention. They thought that would actually, I don't know, thrill people or something. I don't know what that was. But aside from that, of course the Hubbards. But I actually watch the Hubbard cut every year, which, if you don't know what the Hubbard cut is, someone did a cut of the film with the scenes from the film without the Hubbards, which I hate. I really hate Ma and Ethel and Junior. I can't stand them. They were one of the reasons why I often skip the film. I'd sort of start watching the film and not finish it. I'd sort of start on a marathon and start on 1, 2, 3 and 4 and sort of go to sleep on 5 and then wake up the next day on Friday the 13th and do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and all the others, because I normally start after midnight on Thursday when it's technically Friday and do the first few Fridays, so then I can do the other Fridays on Friday and then do the clean-up and the documentary specials, whatever, fan films on the weekend. But yeah, so I like 5. I actually enjoy watching it. I like the flashbacks to Jason. And there's only a couple little elements that don't really work, and like the guys in Lever who their car's broken down, and some of the other elements work and the scenes work and all that. I don't know why people hate on it as much as they do. Part 6, brilliant. People either totally get it or totally don't. Most people totally love it, and the people who hate it don't seem to go on about it. It doesn't get a lot of criticism. It's got its tongue firm in its cheek. It's winking at the audience. But it's still scary. It's still thrilling. It actually has some action scenes. It actually has some characters we care about that we don't want to be hurt, that we want to survive, and we do have a surviving couple. And it's probably the best film. I think maybe. 4 I think is best because it's dark. It's better than 2. 2 and 4 are dark. 4 is probably the better one. But 6 is actually fun. You can have some fun being scared. So I think that's the best. Now 7, again, I actually like 7, even though, rest his soul, the director, he just did not know how to direct. And particularly with Jason, it's just like, is this every kill shot, every murder, every scene was just setting up for the effects shot. And then when the producer cut all the effects shots out and the MMA or whatever it is, MMP or whatever, I can't remember, cut out all the effects out. There was just nothing. It's just set up. It's like punchline, joke with no punchline. The whole film is just that. You see Jason walking up behind someone and he's about to rip their heart out, and then we don't see the heart being ripped out, so we didn't get any thrill, we didn't get any tension, we didn't get any hide and seek, any cat and mouse. We just got Jason walking up behind someone ready to pull their heart out, and then we don't get that shot. So, yeah, he should have perhaps planned to have a thrilling horror movie with gore in case, the gore got cut out like they did in every other Friday film, because they absolutely targeted the Friday the 13th films. He must have known that was coming. I don't know how he played the victim of that afterwards, rest his soul. But yeah, couldn't direct, good at makeup, didn't have a backup, still loved the film. I love the Carrie versus Jason idea and the actual scenes where they're going at it. That's when the film, gets good. Now, part 8, I love the Jason on a boat. Yeah, I just do. And in fact, I took a cruise when I was in high school when we went to the city and that, and it felt like every time I watch Friday the 13th part 8, I feel like, yeah, I just like the vibe. And the only thing that ruins it is his weird take on Jason, not just the makeup, which is like a melted marshmallow, but the whole idea of him vomiting himself, which thank God didn't make it into the film, but we've seen the special features, deleted scenes, and it's shocking that they did that. And the whole as far as I'm concerned, Rene was hallucinating because of the drugs and the fumes, and so was the other guy from the fumes, and they just saw Jason turn into this boy, some sort of element of apparition where his child self is haunting his killer zombie self or something. There's something else. It's not literally he turns into a boy and that's how they destroy him. They just leave him as a drowned boy in the sewer, of New York City. I just know. But up until then, I enjoy the film and I enjoy watching it every year. I just really like the Jason on the ship angle, and they could have just done that as a film without Manhattan. It would have been fine. Jason X. Jason Goes to Hell. Jason Goes to Hell I love. I like that they try to do something different. They went on this supernatural bent. I think it works. Looking back at it now, you can tell it was done by a 23-year-old, and obviously, allegedly, Sean S. Cunningham was just keep Jason out of as much as possible because he hated Jason. It hurts a little bit because we could have had a little bit more Jason in the mirror stuff and a little bit more of him before and after he sort of comes back, before he dies and after he comes back. Otherwise, though, I love it. I don't know why people hate it so much. Again, they just want a traditional Friday film. They don't want anything different. and they're judging it for the film they think it should be, or the film they think they could make better. Jason X, again, I enjoyed Jason on a spaceship. I saw it in the cinema. It's the first Friday the 13th I actually saw in the cinema, and I was impressed by the effects back in the day. They did a good job of a lot of elements of it, even though it does look a bit dated now, but it's still a lot of fun. Jason on a spaceship, stalking people. How can you not love that? And of course, Freddy vs. Jason, I loved it. I know it's harder to do reviews for films that you like, because all you can basically say is I loved it, it was good, and then say what happens because you don't have a problem with anything. But the parts with Freddy were good as well, but the only real problem with the film, of course, is that it's really Freddy versus, a stuntman, because Kane Hodder isn't there. There is no actual Jason on that level. Even though there's some element to the taller actor and the way he plays it that is interesting and different from how Kane Hodder would have done it. But because he did stray from the earlier Jasons and he sort of created his own different version of Jason, sort of the MAGA Jason in a way. This one is more like the early ones, who are more kind of disturbing in a way, because he was just this blank thing. He didn't sort of have that rage and that intention. Like, you can see Kane Hodder's Jason, he knows where he's going. Like, his head turns for his body, and he's always got a direction, an intention, and a force behind him. Whereas the other Jason was just like this sort of ghost that sort of lumbered and, hovered and was a bit more mysterious. And I don't mind them going back to that in some ways. But they could have made Kane Hodder do that. They could have directed him like that if he wanted to keep his job. If they could have found a medium. And I guess the last one, the remake, it's a nasty little horror film, more like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It does work in a lot of ways, but they waste a lot of time with the first lot of kids that they just kill, because you don't realise that's the pre-credit scene. You think this is the film that you're in, and it's like, oh no, that was just a pre-credit scene. Now we're with the main cast, and we'll get about an hour with them maybe. I don't have any problems with the idea of him keeping the girl as a prisoner, because he thought it was his mother. It reminded him of her. So that's what it was. Like, ordinarily Jason wouldn't keep a hostage. He would kill everyone. But she was different. That works. Nana Visitor playing the mother robbed of the fact they didn't have a proper scene. They just had a cut a credit sequence where they intercut the scene into the credits. Like, the film was so long they needed to save that 2 minutes. They couldn't just have the scene on its own and then have a credit sequence, or a credit sequence and then just the film, and then move from past to present. That's probably the worst part about the film. The rest works. The guy playing Jason played him differently, but he was terrifying. So I'm not sure how I'd feel if that was how he was for the rest of the series, and that's just the new Jason, an even more aggressive version of Kane Hodder's Jason, rather than the original weird sort of Jason. So I don't know how they're going to go forward with the next films. Are they going to do direct sequels to that one, or are they going to start again? Will they do a sequel to, or a follow-up to the new series that they're going to do? Who knows what's going to happen. But I've enjoyed all the Fridays, and my video keeps cutting out. But I was just going to say goodbye, so feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know why you love the Friday the 13th films.